pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll, Atlantic. Flight outside of speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Okay. We don't need any more of these.
All right, folks, we're going to do a quick status check here at the beginning. Let me know if you can hear me and see me. It's time for another NASA Spaceflight Live. I'm your host, John Galloway. If you watch me on my Twitch stream, you may know me as DOS. 5x5 is what I need to see, loud and clear. All right, good deal. So, again, thank you. Had to fix a couple things on my end here, but we got set for another NASA Spaceflight Live. As you know, NASA Spaceflight every week does these live episodes where we do a bit of a Q&A. A lot of the times we'll have a bunch of presentation sort of stuff, and we'll talk about what's going on. Somebody's been awarded a contract. Here's a launch that happened. Here's something that's good. Here's Starship down at Boca Chica. This week, we're going to be spending a lot of our time on live Q&A with you. So we have a couple topics we're going to hit. Big news this week, crew on reused boosters for SpaceX. NASA actually authorizing SpaceX to put crew on reused boosters and reused capsules. That's big news when we're talking about Dragon and Falcon. We've got SN5 testing as well. So serial number 5 Starship down at Boca Chica, they continue to push that forward. That thing may be out of the hangar sooner rather than later. And then also, we answer your questions as we go forward in the episode. Really quick couple things. Really quick here, as we do NASA Spaceflight Live, if you haven't seen the show before, this is a live interactive show. We're not trying to be, and then welcome to the boring news. We will now tell you what happened in spaceflight this week of June 6th, whatever. That's not how we are around here. We are live and interactive. So if you have a question for us, if we're talking about Starship and you want to ask a question about Starship, the purpose of these live shows is so that we can talk with you about stuff. If you do have a question, please tag us at NASASpaceflight in the YouTube chat there. That'll highlight for us. It goes into a little bit of an interface, and we can get to some of the questions. Please be patient. There's no reason to spam your question over and over and over again, right? If you ask your question, if you tag us, it will make it into the queue. We'll answer it if we can, if we get time to it. Sometimes somebody may ask a question. We may talk about that question for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. We may go off into the weeds. It happens. We get excited about space stuff, and you give us a good prompt to talk about. We'll talk about it, right? So please be patient. It may take us some time to get to your questions. Also, if you ask us a question that has nothing to do with the topic that we're talking about, if we're talking about Crew Dragon, and you're like, but what about the Dark Side of the Moon Observatory? We may hold that question for the end. If we have time, we do a feature at the end that we call Max Q&A. Came up with that ourselves. You like it? Mac, get cute. And then, anyways, at the end of the episode, questions that don't really fit in anywhere else, we'll try to get some time for those. Also, we're able to do these things because of your support. So the super chats, the channel memberships, people that tweet things out, people that say thank you, like everything that you do to support us, we appreciate you. If you join the channel as a channel membership, or if you do a super chat, we might not get that in real time. But again, those do go into a queue, and we will say thank you for them. Just keep in mind, if we're knee-deep talking about what's happening in Boca Chica and you do an awesome super chat, we may not say right away, oh, stop everything, thanks for the super chat. We may wait until we get to the end of a segment, and then we may do a little bit of a super chat thank you. But again, we're able to do this because of your support. We're able to keep bringing you these live interactive weekly episodes talking about space news or whatever's happened because y'all keep showing up. So without further ado, I don't think I missed anything else, did I? No, tag us in chat. It's live. Please be patient. Thanks for your support. All right. That's how we do our new shows around here. You know me. You know me if you've seen the show before. I like to surround myself by people that are smarter than me, so I've got a couple subject matter experts here with me this week. Let's pop on over and meet our special guests. Starting off over here on my side, we've got Ian. Ian Atkinson, how's it going today?
Doing good. How about you?
Not too shabby. Just sitting here talking like I usually do. Ian is a writer for NASASpaceflight.com. What else do you do for NASASpaceflight, Ian?
I do a bit of work on the live streams. I'm a live stream co-host.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, good deal. So Ian will be chatting with us about some of the topics that we have today and answering questions, giving opinions and stuff. And then on my other side, we've got Jack. Jack, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing good.
You doing good?
Sorry.
All right.
I'm doing better than my voice sounds, I guess. I'm
sure?
hanging out, enjoying the
you
weekend.
can do the show here, like.
Yeah, I got just a little bit of coffee remaining in my throat, unfortunately.
Oh, the coffee is most important for doing the live show here. So, Jack is a photographer with NASA Spaceflight, a frequent host here on the live streams, subject matter expert. Jack, did I miss anything there?
Nope, checks out.
All right, good deal. So Ian and Jack today will be joining me, and they will be talking about a couple different things as we go through here. Again, this is a live show. It's all about answering questions and chatting with you. So let's go ahead and hop on into it, shall we, y'all?
Let's do it.
All right.
Sounds good.
So we're going to start off today here. Oh, well, what is this? I'm confused. Launch preview. Are we doing that? No. That's the whole episode. Let's start off with a launch recap. We've had a couple launches this week. And Ian, take us through what launches occurred this week, if you could.
Yeah, sounds good. So to start off this week, we had a very historic mission, SpaceX's Crew Dragon Demo 2 flight that lifted off on Saturday after a 3-day delay from weather. It was supposed to launch on Wednesday, May 27th, but it was pushed back due to bad weather in the launch site, and they wouldn't have been able to launch then. So they launched on Saturday, and then 19 hours later on Sunday, the 31st, they docked to the space station, and the crew came inside to join the Expedition 63 mission. And from there, they'll be on the station for 1 to 4 months, depending upon how Dragon performs. Excuse me. Also with station scheduling, what equipment's going to be coming up there, and also to ensure that there's the smallest gap possible between Demo 2 and the first operational Dragon mission.
So, Ian, I've actually queued up the correct graphic here, which is the launch of DM2. I apparently had the launch up, but we were still showing the coming up title card there, so sorry about that. This is actually the launch. Go ahead.
So that's actually the launch of Demo 2, as you can see. Which way? Is that up there?
Yeah.
You can see it up there, the Demo 2 launch.
Skills of a weather presenter. Nice.
I'm confused with the mirrored camera here. But then after Demo 2, we also had from China, from the Jiuquan Space Center, there was the Long March 2D launch with the second Gaofen 9 satellite. And as you can see in the video here, the Gaofen 9 satellite is intended for Earth observation. So it has a large camera on board and a large telescope to be able to map the Earth's surface for use in urban planning, farming, in general mapping of Earth's surface. So this is the second of 4 Gaofen 9 satellites, and it's in a higher low Earth orbit, about 650 kilometers circular. And that lifted off on Sunday, May 31st. And then most recently, we had the 8th overall Starlink mission for SpaceX. It was the 7th operational, but the 8th overall. It's a confusing naming scheme. But it was also the first landing on their drone ship Just Read the Instructions after it was moved to the East Coast from the West Coast earlier this year. And also, it was the first 5th landing of a booster. The last time they used a booster for the 5th time, there was a failure during re-entry. So they were unable to land that core. But this one, booster 10.49 or booster 1049.5, was able to land and stick the landing for the 5th time.
Keep talking about the landing.
That was such a cool landing.
Oh, and
that
they had
was
solid video. There was solid video the whole time, which was very uncommon. And because of that, we were able to see the booster as it came down, the engine shut down, and it just came out of the darkness there. That was a beautiful landing.
The craziest thing on this landing is you can see the landing burn light up the clouds around the drone ship, right? So the left-hand side of the screen there, watch as the entire world lights up during this booster landing. It should come up in just
engines
a
off,
second.
engines off, engines off, engines on.
You know when they turn on.
Yeah,
It's beautiful
very
'cause
obvious.
It just made the ocean light up a nice deep blue, like it turned night to day.
Yep. Keep stalling. It'll happen at some point.
Oh, we
Did
gotta
I
get our
mention
mission
we do these
timing.
shows live?
And it's extra cool because all the while we're oohing and eyeing over the secondary mission of the first stage landing, the second stage is just humbly on the right side. Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Chugging along, doing its job. So yeah, wait for it. It's not over. It's bright, it's flashing, and then the ocean turns that bright, deep blue. It's so cool.
It's such a cool shot. And usually the video drops out during this segment, right?
Yeah,
And,
so it looks like they had a solid internet connection here, and
yeah.
it just blows out the camera and then touchdown.
And there you go. That's a booster landing. So
Boop.
that's the Starling launch. Okay, go ahead. We saw one other thing for the first time, didn't we, Ian?
Yes, we also saw the Starlink deploy for the first time. Whether that was accidental or not, we don't really know. But they showed the complete deployment for Starlink. So it showed the tension rods, which hold the stack of 60 satellites together. We saw them deploy and fall off the stack, and then the satellites slowly streaming away. Now, usually they would have cut off at that point before the tension rods deploy and would have cut back about 30 seconds later. But this was the first time we actually got to see the Starlink deployment live.
I'm going to fast forward a little bit there so we get to the tension rod deployment.
Yeah, that was fun to watch. It confused me for a second, like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But hey, you can see the moon there as it passes by, and what they do, they rotate the second stage, so when they deploy the satellite, it sort of flings them out like you're spreading a stack of cards across a table.
And there you
go.
go.
You can see tension rod deploy, and the satellite's slowly flying away.
It is a very Kerbal way to deploy things. Literally just spin the spacecraft and undo the thing that's holding them onto the spacecraft, isn't it?
I've probably done that a few times in Kerbal, to be honest.
It's a legitimate strategy in Kerbal, I think.
If it just won't fall off, just spin it around till it does.
Yeah, the separation hardware is the second stage just spinning.
It really is. Yeah. It uses the what is it? Centrifugal?
I think centrifugal.
Thank you.
There's different ones, and it's like I'm just not even going to wade into that.
Yeah, what is it? It's the force that keeps it back in, and then the outwards force, and then the angular. Jeez.
I feel bad. I took a physics class this year, and I don't even know this.
There's centripetal and centrifugal, and there's probably more than those two, and I bet you chat is going to light up with all of the different ones right now, but we're going to move on.
Chat, since it's a live show, help us out. Tell us what it is. What is the force that actually separates the Starlink satellites when they spin that upper stage and they fold them out like a deck of cards? What is the force involved with that? Y'all let us know.
We got 2 centrifugals there, one from a physics student, so I think we'll take centrifugal.
I guess I'm curious, why is it not centripetal? I have some Wikipediaing to do after that. I got some homework for myself.
Centrifugal is out, and I think it's like centripetal is
in?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, no, that would make sense.
Yeah, geez. This is super confusing because the video went until I had to come up and switch the camera. Let's go to another thing right here. So that's what we just had launching this week, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay. And
also, one important note with the Starlink satellites, you see them floating away there. Some people, I've been seeing them saying, what happens if they bump into each other? Can they get damaged?
Right.
And no, they've actually said that each satellite is designed to withstand a small impact from other satellites as they deploy.
Gotcha.
So they're very rigid, so they can't get damaged.
It's part of, instead of having a bunch of bumpers and this complicated deploy system that like, okay, now I'm going to have a toaster slot thing that pushes out each satellite independently. They're like, what? Just stack them up and then release the rod. Just make them so they can bump against each other. It's fine. I'm really curious how the Starlink satellites actually separate. Like, if they're in a big cluster, do they just let them float for a while and just get that natural separation before they activate and start to maneuver them? They'd have to, right?
I would guess so, yeah. You want to get some space between them before you deploy the solar panel and get the ion engines running.
Yeah, get it, space.
It's just like a big game of space bumper cars.
Space bumper cars. But with satellites, and what was this, y'all? These were 400... How many satellites have they deployed in the Starlink network so far?
480?
480.
480, and then the 2 test sets, right?
Yep.
So they've put a total of 482 up there so far. That's a lot of satellites. I went outside my house and I tried to see them. I actually got video of them going over, but it was really tough to see them. They were super dim and very fast moving. So were either of y'all able to see them? Did y'all get clouds or no pass or?
I tried to go out twice this week, and they were just in the clouds. Last night it was clear everywhere except where they were going over.
Of course it was.
Of course.
I tried to go out last night as well. I couldn't. I had clouds yesterday. I couldn't give them all. Jack, did you have any luck?
Yeah, I've been able to see them from previous launches, but from this one we've tried a couple times and we haven't been able to see it.
Right.
Last night it was all clouds. Previous nights I just haven't been able to see them. I'm not sure if they're dimmer, if SpaceX is actively doing any of those dimming maneuvers that they talked about. I know they talked about visor sat specifically, but I think there was also some discussion over like specifically maneuvering the vehicles so that the solar panels didn't catch light as they were crossing over the Terminator kind of thing. So I don't know if that's in effect right now or not, but they certainly seem a little bit more elusive lately.
I'm gonna see if I can play my pass just really quickly here. Let's see how this looks in chat. This is gonna be double encoded, so we'll see. They were super faint for me, But let's just go over to TrioPresent, and this is actually from my Twitch channel. We didn't do it here on NASA Spaceflight's channel because I didn't know if I was going to see anything. I don't want to spool it up for a few thousand people and then not see anything, right? But this was me just in my driveway, and I got a really bright satellite. That one dot you can see sort of moving. I'm tracking it right now. That was one of the satellites going over, and I wasn't exactly sure if that was a Starlink sat or not because it was well out in front of the pack. But then when I came back over this way, wow, that's tough to see. Right in here, you can see the satellites flaring. I don't know if y'all can see the flares. Can y'all see the flares in there?
Yep.
So I was getting the flares, but they were very, very dim. Even with the naked eye, if I hadn't known exactly where to look at the exact right time, I would never have noticed these things going over. Contrasted with a previous pass at my house, they were completely obvious, bright flying across the side previously. So I know that Michael Baylor got a pass as these as well. Maybe if we queue up that video, we can...
I just threw a video in a control center of the
yeah?
previous pass that I was able to shoot from Los Angeles, and then Michael just threw his pass in there as well.
Okay,
so
good,
we got
good,
a couple
yeah.
different
I'll bring
options
those up
there.
as well. So
Michael's
Jack,
is from this launch, so
this one is... What was this? This was November 2019. This was a previous launch?
yeah, that would have been, I think, like 3 or 4. I'm not sure.
Oh, wow.
but
Look at this. Here we go. And I just keep going to TrioPresent. So this is Jack's video, and I'll link this up over in chat so y'all can check it out as well. So here's a link to this video that we're rolling. This was back from November, right?
Yeah.
Look at that. This had to be a couple days after the launch because they're pretty spread out here.
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed at how spread out they were, but they were as bright as the ISS. Like it was, I didn't go anywhere special. This is from urban Los Angeles, like street lights to my left and right and cars all around me driving. So that was extremely, extremely bright. And it was just, that was really cool. So they have not been that noticeable for me, at least.
Look
since.
at that.
So I'm really glad I caught that.
It's almost like you can see some that seem to be a little dimmer and some that are brighter in your video. Is that sort of your observation?
Yeah, absolutely. It looked like that to the naked eye. It absolutely looked like maybe some were in different orientation, or I don't know if if maybe some are engines on, or what might cause that.
What
but
that is.
It definitely appeared to be almost little chunks of them. Like there would be 5 in a row, and there'd be like 3 bright ones,
right,
and 2 dim ones. Or I don't know. You guys can check out the video. It's pretty nifty.
Yeah, and I linked that up in the chat. Y'all can click on that video that I put in chat so you can see. That was Jack's video of the earlier launch. Again, we'll roll Michael's video here, but the Starlink sats, the reason you can see them when they go over like this, imagine the curve of the Earth, right? I'm going to telestrate here real quick, y'all. And you have, say, a satellite up here like this. What you need is the sun to be in a specific, that's a really terrible sun, but just pretend that's the sun. You need the sun to be in a position where the light of the sun will actually reflect off the satellite down to you on the ground, but it needs to be night where you are. So imagine you're on the ground here and the sun is already set. It's under the horizon for you. It's past sunset, but the light of the sun is still actually hitting those satellites and bouncing off the satellites down to your eyes. That's the best time to see it, and that's why you can only see the Starlink satellites for a specific amount of time, because eventually the satellite will follow the curve of the Earth and it'll end up in the shadow over here where there's no more light on it. The shadow of the Earth is actually making it so that there's no light to reflect off that satellite. So sometimes when you're watching satellites, whether it's the ISS, Starlinks, other satellites, they'll disappear when they're right overhead. And that's the point where they cross into the terminus. They cross into the shadow of the Earth, because if they don't have the light of the sun reflecting off them down to you, you're not going to be able to see them. So let's get Michael's video here. I know I'm talking a little bit more about Starlink than I anticipated. Yes, I'm drawing on the screen again.
Any excuse to get you to draw on the screen.
I like drawing on the screen. Here is
I think we all do.
From Michael Baylor. Let's see, did I paste that in? Yeah, so this is Michael Baylor's pass. This is the launch that just happened. And let's see if oh, wow. Look at those things go.
Wow.
They're so fast.
Yeah, they're cooking.
Look at that. And again, here, this was 2 days after launch. So these satellites are still in the lower orbit. When they launch these things, they end up being in a lower orbit. And remember, if you're running the orbital racetrack, I was just talking about this in Kerbal. If you have a smaller racetrack that you're running, those satellites, yep, thanks there for the recommended videos. Appreciate you. If you have the smaller orbital racetrack that you're sort of running, they're going to go by super fast. They're also closer to you, so not only are they moving faster, they have a shorter track to run, but just perceptually, it's like a car driving past you really quickly versus a train moving off in the distance. That pass from Michael went by super fast. So I don't know. Really quickly, does anybody have an app that they use to track these things? Like maybe somebody can check out an app that they can use to go outside and see if they can see Starlink. Jack, what did you use when you took that shot?
I use flightclub.io
Okay.
by our friend Declan, and I also use Heavens Above. Heavens Above is a great website also.
Yeah.
So kind of a combination between those two. I know there's a lot of different resources out there, but those are the two that I happen to use. And I really like Flight Club because if you're a photographer, it helps you. If you happen to be a patron of Flight Club, you can plug in what kind of camera you have, what kind of location you'll be at, and use that to play in a very specific type of shot. Which if it's a one-off type of event, that can really help you nail it rather than sort of do testing on the one time that it's ever going to happen.
Right. I just tried to bring up Flight Club to see if I was going to get any more Starlink passes, or this is for the wrong GPS coordinates. So Flight Club told me that I was getting any passes, but that website is flightclub.io, and I'll paste that link in chat so y'all can check it out. And you saw I just clicked on what was called the Pass Planner up at the top. And the Pass Planner allows you to search for different TLEs. The two-line elements are how we describe where a spacecraft or a piece of space debris is in orbit, right? And so plan a pass right there, and then search TLEs. Just typing in Starlink will allow you to click on Starlink 7. I believe he has this listed as Starlink 7, and that'll tell you if you get any passes. The latitude and longitude, you can put in your latitude and longitude up there and stuff.
Yep.
But good deal. I'll paste that link in the chat so that y'all have it really quickly.
Can I confess something?
Go ahead.
I never knew that was the TLE was two-line element. You just taught me something. Thank you.
Yeah.
If you look at it, it's 2 lines of text, and it's specific positions in the line, and each position gives you a different element of the orbit.
Somehow never knew that. Thanks.
You just never thought about it, right?
Yeah.
All right. So that is Starlink, the launch of Starlink, and then a little bit more discussion on Starlink satellites, videos that some NSF members have captured, and some instructions on how you can capture them as well. What we really need to do is come up with just a video tutorial on exactly how to use Starlink. It'd be awesome if I used Starlink to plan a pass, and I went outside and actually recorded that pass, weather willing, right? But for the rest of our show here today, we said that instead of going in a deep dive in a bunch of different space news things, I think we were going to open up a lot of this for just Max Q&A, weren't we? Did I get that correct here? I think I did.
I believe so.
Yeah, I'm looking at
Do we want to do upcoming launches?
Yeah. Do we want to go ahead and do the upcoming launches real quick? Because we've got a bunch of stuff we can talk about. What's happening down at Boca Chica, the SNs that are down at Boca Chica and Starship testing. I know we can talk about Starship, Crew Dragon. Big news was Crew Dragon being on reused boosters. The status of DM2. We've got a lot of topics that we can talk about. So I guess let's start going through. I'll just follow the schedule here. We'll start going through Max Q&A, and let's start off Max Q&A with some DM2 related chatter. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
All right.
Sure.
So we have all this different stuff. And again, y'all, we'll take some questions. Now is a great time to ask these questions about DM2, but we'll start off with this right here. Right now, this video, this is almost saying come and take it. We've got some astronauts walking out of the Neil Armstrong astronaut facility at Cape Canaveral. But this was DM2. Start firing off your questions about DM2. And Ian, did you get a chance to watch DM2 live? Silly question.
I did, but I feel so bad. I missed the walkout while I was making lunch.
Oh.
And I was watching the stream in the other room. I came back in. I'm like, how are they already in the Tesla? Are the Teslas driving to the astronaut facility? I was like, I missed walkout. You're kidding me. I was so mad.
I really love the video that NASA shared here, showing how we do the social distancing with the families. That's Bob and Doug and their families there watching. But notice how they have the line and they're not giving hugs or anything. They're doing their socially distanced goodbyes to their astronaut dads.
Look at that
there.
sweet yellow DSLR.
Oh yeah, you're right. I thought that this was really cool, the way that in the times that we have to deal with COVID, they're going up to the space station. There are other astronauts, cosmonauts on the space station. How do we make sure that not only are they protected, but the other astronauts, cosmonauts up there? Oh, in the intentional ninja guy.
All the various space ninjas with the numbers on their backs. I love it.
You know what I'm talking about, right? This one of the pad closeout crew actually put an umbrella in his backpack in the typical ninja sword position. I don't know if anybody else caught that. But when you got a sort of front-on view of this this closeout crew member, it literally looked like they were a ninja. They have the mask, they have the hood, and they had a umbrella handle coming out like they could go shink and then protect the astronauts from rain.
It's epic.
And y'all, I'm just doing this sort of fast and loose. I mean, I've got all of the videos and stuff that we can queue up here. Jack, did I miss any comments on crew walk out there?
I haven't been looking, actually. Let me take a look. But yeah, one of my favorite photos of the whole walkout and drive out process was, I think it was a Walter Scriptunis photo of Garrett Reisman holding the photo and said, "Take me with you," as the astronauts drive by.
Oh, really?
I love that.
He was standing on the sidelines as they drove by with holding up the big sign.
It just says, "Take me with you."
Yeah, it's seriously, and it was like, I don't want to say it was like child scrawl, but it was not, it was purposefully not neat handwriting.
Yeah, it wasn't like a Kinko's printout or whatever.
Yeah, exactly, and it really put a smile on my, because we all would like to be going to space. I mean, come on.
It's like you're on the side of the road at KSE, like hitchhiking with a sign that says like space station or bust. Just, you got an extra. Actually, they did have extra seats on Crew Dragon, didn't they?
I do love the signs at Wallops. They have them on the launch pad saying ISS next left and then moon ahead.
Yeah, like moon on ramp for International Space Station or whatever that one sign says, right? Let me.
I love stuff like that.
Let me grab through a couple of questions here really quickly. Hey, Sami Daly, thank you for the super chat there, $5. We appreciate the support. Nice Bryce, $20 says, thanks for all the great coverage to everyone involved. Truly grateful. Let me see, where did that come from? I just made that go. Would you consider consolidating daily Boca Chica videos once a week as a recap? I know, Jack, we do edits every day for what's going on in Boca Chica, but we don't then turn around and turn the daily edits into weekly recaps and then weekly recaps into monthly recaps, right?
No, but that's something we could talk about doing. I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah, I think it'd be how many people would think that would be useful, because it takes a lot of resources to get those done on a daily basis. Believe me, Jack, you're one of the people that does it on a daily basis, right? This way. This over this side. So
indeed.
It's
not trivial, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm thinking about it now, that especially that SN5 is about to roll to the pad.
Yep.
We're probably at the point where we could put together an entire Starship being built from the footage that Mary has shot.
It's like a lifespan.
From rings to roll.
Yeah.
As I am saying.
You already have the thumblenail. The thumbnail would say from rings to roll.
Yeah, so that's a good idea.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
Maybe we'll do some more overarching type videos rather than just the daily updates.
The daily updates. Yeah, the daily updates probably aren't going anywhere, though, right?
Idea. No, absolutely not.
Yeah. And the last one real quick, Mike, ever figure about CGT lighting up in the dark? CGT, I don't grok that. Does anybody grok CGT lighting up in the dark? Cold gas thrusters. That's what it was. So we saw on the Starlink launch, we actually had a rocket camera on the Starlink launch, and it was showing us some of the cold gas thruster firings from the booster, and we were trying to figure out, if it was dark, there's no light on the rocket, why could we see the cold gas thrusters? I actually haven't gotten an answer to that one yet, so I'll need to remember that question. But I do not have an answer to why we could see those or not. We'll get Scott on the horn or something and see what Scott Manley thinks about it. Let's grab some other questions here really quickly, and it's sort of rough to bring up the Q&A while I also do this. So let's go over to the patch grab video. We'll roll the patch grab video while we talk about this. And there was a question here from Martin Smith. And Martin Smith asked, is the DM2 Dragon capsule going to be reused again? So Jack, Ian, do you have any indication on the result of what that is?
Yes.
Okay. Somebody tell me.
Oh.
You go.
So I believe that DM2's Dragon capsule will be reused on, I believe it's the first private astronaut mission to the ISS.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure if that's correct, but I believe I've heard that.
Is that like a SpaceX announcement sort of thing? Or go ahead, Jack.
On the most recent, one of the most recent AV Week podcasts, I think we've mentioned it before on some of our streams. It's Aviation Week. It's a really good, aviation and aerospace publication. One of their space editor, Irene Klotz, did an interview with both Elon, and then in another episode, she did an interview with Gwen Shotwell.
Right.
And in the interview with Gwen, she says a lot of really interesting things. And one of the things Gwen mentions is that the the DM2 Dragon will be reused on probably the movie mission, is what she says. I'm trying to remember her exact quote. I can try and find it here.
Yeah.
But it's
like
she basically says, she basically says that they'll be able to enable, like, what the lessons they've learned through reuse will enable them to turn around the DM2 Dragon and use it for the movie mission. I'm paraphrasing, so I'm trying to find.
Fair enough.
Also
the actual.
As of right now, the DM2 capsule is busy because the DM2 capsule is still at the space station. Dragon Capsule Endeavour, I think they named it, right? Is still parked at the space station. It's still Bob and Doug's ride. So
they kind of need it.
Yeah, they kind of need it. Oh, all right. I'm going to keep on grabbing some questions here. We've never done an extended Max Q&A like this before, so I'm just reading the questions out of the control panel over here for people back in the studio.
I'm gonna mute myself really quick and listen, because it's from a podcast and I have it clipped out, but I'm just gonna take a second.
Yeah, gotcha. So this was a question from Martin Trevino, and Martin Trevino said, are Bob and Doug coming back in the capsule, or are they going to stay on the space station? So Ian, we know that the Dragon Capsule Endeavour up there is staying at the space station. That's their ride home, right?
Yep, that's their ride home, and it'll be just them coming back in it. So there's Dragon will be their only ride home, and they'll be coming back in about 1 to 4 months.
Gotcha. So they successfully made it up to the station, but it's not like they went up there and then some other spacecraft is going to bring them back down again.
Yep.
That's their ride.
Mm-hmm.
That's
they're testing the thing all the way up, all the way down.
Yep, absolutely. Here is one. This is TRX. TRX asked, do we know what the destiny of the DM2 booster is? And I can cue this up really quickly because I got some crazy video from a buddy of the DM2 booster rolling by. So I'll put this link into chat for y'all as well. But Ian, what do you think is going to happen with the DM2 booster?
So my guess is with SpaceX's current booster situation, they're currently pretty short on boosters, and they're going to be ramping up Starlink. They're going to be starting off or restarting commercial flights and government flights. So I think they're going to need every booster they can get. So I could see DM2's booster being reused quite a few times.
Gotcha. So look at this. This was right. This was a public road. This is outside the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station badging building. There's like the security badging building that's outside the gate. And the guy that took this is one of my buddies. Goalie Bear is his screen name. This is actually up on YouTube, so I've put that link to chat over there. But he was standing in the right place at the right time on the side of a public road when the booster rolled by. So this is the size of that booster just rolling by. But like you said, Ian, SpaceX definitely needs these boosters. We know that they have sort of spooled down production of new boosters unless they're requested by the client. So DM2 booster probably going to be reused, you think, right?
I think so. And with or without the worm and meatball logos on the side, I don't know. That'd be pretty weird to see those launching a Starlink. I mean, I wouldn't complain.
Yep.
I love the worm logo, but
I don't think they can take them off, though. I don't think that they can actually take those logos off. They're too historic.
Yeah.
I mean,
they might. I think painting over them, to be honest, that'd be like sacrilegious.
That just seems wrong to paint over the worm logo and the meatball, even if it's a non-NASA mission. I hope NASA gives them some sort of special dispensation that it's like, hey, all right, we'll take the free advertising.
Yeah. I really hope this ends up after just like 5 flights or maybe even 10 flights, to be honest. I hope it ends up at like Kennedy Space Center Visitor Center.
Yep.
Just see it with all the worm with all the soot marks on it. It's been through battle.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool to see.
That's definitely where it belongs.
Absolutely.
Just, like you get over here whenever he scrolls by the worm logo, like look at how toasty that thing is. I'll pause the video real quick. That thing's toasty.
I love that.
It really does look cool. It's one of the things I say when I visit museums and stuff is I love seeing flown space hardware. Like you get the capsules, the Apollo capsules that are in museums, and you see like the heat shield charring and stuff like that, and you're like, that looks like it did some work, because it did.
Yeah,
that's been to space. Yeah,
it got some character. Yep.
I love seeing that. And typically we wouldn't have boosters that would have that scarring. You got space shuttles and you got capsules, and we'd never really see boosters that were flown. They were all like boilerplates or whatever, sitting in the gate guardians for a base or the museum or something. But to have a booster that actually has scarring and heat shield marks and stuff like that on it, it's cool to see.
Yeah. And now there's a sooty booster. It was used for, I think it was CRS-11 and CRS-13 on display at Johnson Space Center now.
Yep.
I want to go see that like as soon as possible.
Oh, yeah. So here's another question. Again, I'm just going to keep trying to go through as many questions as we can. We're doing sort of max Q&A for NASA Spaceflight Live, an extended max Q&A. This one's from Chris, and Chris asked, were you surprised to hear of the reuses of the Dragon and booster? So I think we're probably talking there about the news that NASA announced they would allow SpaceX to reuse a booster and reuse a crew Dragon for crewed missions, right?
Yep.
So were you all surprised about that? Ian, were you surprised to hear that?
Honestly, I was shocked. I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting that to come out until like at least a second operational mission, if ever. But seeing it come out, that shows a lot of trust in SpaceX from NASA, and that's some amazing news for them going forward.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
don't.
that was really. I don't know that I was more surprised about the capsule or the booster. I think the reused booster part is really what caught my eye, because they've been reusing Dragons, at least cargo-wise. It's not really too far of a
jump, I guess.
too far-fetched an idea to see them reusing a capsule over and over again.
Yeah.
But the reusing a booster, that was kind of just, I was like, oh wow, nice.
And
like, way to go.
one thing I'm wondering from this is they were planning originally to use the landed Crew Dragon capsules after the crew mission was done. They were going to strip off the life support, the Super Dracos, all of that, and turn it into a cargo Dragon. So I wonder what's going to happen there, if they're going to maybe use them after the reused crew missions or build them from scratch now.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with it. But this was, I mean, we heard of this because there was just a modification to a contract. I don't even know that it wasn't NASA marching out a big announcement. It was just a couple lines in the contract. That's what the tweet is here. The bilateral modification to extend the Demo 2 flight test, blah, blah, blah. And then also allowing reuse. That's the big part down there. In exchange for allowing reuse of the Falcon 9 and the Crew Dragon spacecraft. This wasn't even a big, like, an announcement or anything they made. We just happened to find it in this contract alteration, right?
Yep. There was no big announcement about it. It was just like minor footnote that was coincidentally something very important.
Yeah, those are the important lines right there. In exchange for allowing reuse of, if I try to highlight it, then I just mark over it. So that's not good. So anyways, let's keep marching forward with some more questions. Let's see.
Oh yeah,
I see a good
note.
sorry.
Jack.
Quick note, I listened to the podcast really quickly, a little snippet from it, and Gwen says that basically what I said is that the lessons they've learned to reuse the Dragon capsules will allow them to refurbish them super rapidly. They'll have a fleet of them, and that they're going to do their first commercial mission really rapidly after DM2. I'm not familiar with the terminology. What's PCM2 and PCM3? She says they'll do the first commercial
mission.
Okay, so she says they'll do the first commercial mission after post-certification 2, before post-certification 3, and then it'll probably be the movie mission. So she doesn't specifically say that the DM2 capsule will be used for the movie mission or for the first commercial mission, but you can sort of flip the dominoes to see the first capsule that will be up for it would be that capsule. So if it comes back and it's in a good condition and they're trying to do that mission rapidly after PCM2, that would be the first presumable candidate capsule. So that's why I say that.
Gotcha. So let's see here. Let's see. So here's a question. This is from Stephen Burnett, and this one says, do you think NASA has allowed the reuse of Falcons and Dragons to increase the speed at which they can get people up without, it says Boeing, but I'm going to assume that that's Boeing. Boeing, the other commercial crew provider with a Starliner, which has notably had a couple issues with the checkouts that with the test flights. That's like a sort of a light way to put it. A couple issues with the flights they've been doing. What do y'all think? Jack, do you think that they're allowing this reuse to try and get things going more quickly? I don't know that it's changed the schedule, really.
No, my gut would be no, that NASA wouldn't be that concerned about schedule, to get reuse going. I feel like the only reason that NASA would be on board with it would be confidence in SpaceX as a provider. But that's just my gut. I don't know. What do you think, Ian?
I think it would be mostly just to save money, to make it easy, or not just to save money, but also to save time, because SpaceX wouldn't have to make brand new Dragons every time. They just need to refurbish them. But the refurbishment process, there's not much known on what exactly they have to do. So there's really not much detail on what would actually be saved by refurbishing.
Yeah, and I brought up the tweet, the line from the contract that we looked at, and I think this may be sort of telling. It says the purpose of the bilateral modification. So it's like both sides wanted to modify the contract, and so it seems sort of like a give and take thing. NASA said, okay, we want you to support an extended Demo 2 flight test. Instead of 2 weeks, we want it to be 119 days. So that's something NASA's asking for. And then they also wanted the 45th Space Operations Group detachment to be joint test training for PCM-1 through PCM-6 in exchange for, and then SpaceX asked for some things. So SpaceX says, yes, we'll do this contract like under those given terms. You want these things, but we're going to ask you to let us do this. And it actually sounds like SpaceX asked for reuse of the Falcon 9 launch vehicle and the Crew Dragon spacecraft. So maybe it wasn't NASA saying, yes, we want you to do this. It was SpaceX saying, okay, if you want that, then you need to agree to give us this. And it was sort of a tit for tat exchange. That's not really the right way to
compromise.
Think about it. Yeah, like a compromise, exactly. Maybe that has something to do with it as well, you think?
Yeah, and it'll definitely help out SpaceX in the end, because they'll be able to they won't need to produce as many new boosters, because previously NASA would have wanted a new booster for every single Crew Dragon mission.
Yep.
So now they'll be able to either stop or slow down Falcon 9 first stage production even more than they have already.
And I queued up, we have our video of the booster return, so just to have something playing in the background. This was Chris Gebhardt out at Cape Canaveral. Look, it's like double DOS for some reason here, but that was actually our live stream of the booster return. It's the first time we spooled up that booster return as we talk about the reuse of these boosters and that sort of stuff. I mean, that is the DM2 booster with the worm logo on it right there, y'all. So let me grab another. Go ahead.
I saw a good question here from chat from Justin Davenport Babinski.
Okay.
It said, when is the first cargo derivative of Crew Dragon fly? And will cargo be carried in the trunk like it was on the original Cargo Dragon? So it's the first Cargo Dragon 2, CRS-21, is scheduled for later this year. I believe it's around like October or November.
Right.
And yes, it will be able to carry cargo in the trunk. Will it? Probably. I don't think there's anything certain yet or anything that's been publicly said about that.
Gotcha. All right.
What a great video. I mean, just seeing the worm come in sooty like that was just freaking mind-blowing. So that was...
Do you know,
wow.
Jack?
Thank you, everybody that's a member and that supports the channel and watches, because you guys make stuff like that possible.
Yeah.
I mean, what a cool stream. I couldn't be there in person. Obviously, I'm on this coast and not on the East Coast right now due to everything that's going on in the world. But having a live stream is the next best thing. So thanks again, everybody, for your support.
For the longest time, I've wanted to make this work. I've wanted to bring the live stream equipment down there to, this is Jetty Park down at Port Canaveral, to live stream a booster return, and it's never worked out. It's always either bad weather or I've got to go home because I don't live in Florida, right? So if they launch and then it's 3 or 4 days later that the booster comes into port, that's another 3 or 4 days that I got to get hotels, Airbnbs, whatever. It costs a lot of money for me to be down there. But we had Chris Gebhardt and Julia, and they are down there. They live down in that area. Chris has a little bit of a drive, but Julia lives right there in Titusville. And they showed up and they made the live stream happen so that we could share this booster return with literally the rest of the world, zooming in on the Octograbber there and stuff like that. So anyways, I'm super happy that they got this stream going. Let's keep on going with the Max Q&A. Martin Smith asked, how many astronauts can fit into a Dragon capsule, and could it be used as a rescue ship for the ISS? So who wants that one? Somebody take that one away.
I think 7. I don't know what the current, I think originally the design was 7, but I'm not sure what the current certification or plan is. Ian, do you know better than me? Chad is saying 7 a whole lot.
Yeah, it was started off at 7. That's the maximum capability. I think they still can fit 7 now, but NASA only needs 4.
Got it.
Per launch. And they use the rest of the area that would normally have seats in it for extra cargo capacity, right?
Yep. And the seats are modular on the bottom 3 row of seats. So they can take those out, put more cargo in. And I think on Demo Mission 1 that flew in March of last year, that had a 5th seat and a mass simulator 6th seat at the bottom.
Right. What did they name that one? They named that one something, didn't they?
I think they named it like a roasted marshmallow, or nicknamed it.
Who was Ripley?
Oh yeah, Ripley.
Ripley was a dummy.
Ripley was the dummy inside.
The dummy, okay. But the mass simulator is not Ripley. Are we talking about different things there?
I think that's something different. Yeah, Ripley
Okay.
was the mannequin in the spacesuit.
Okay, gotcha. So I remembered Ripley, and then you said Mass Simulator, and I sort of, But this was wild, the crew transfer. So they put crew aboard the drone ship, and you need crew aboard to do like line handling and stuff like that as they approach the dock. Because right now there's no human beings on the drone ship, and they did this underway crew transfer where literally the tug, the Elizabeth S, just came up on the back of the drone ship, and the crew just hops over. That's what's happening in the video there. While I grab another question here. But apparently they do this on a regular basis. People are like, oh, so dangerous. I just stepped across.
Yeah. That's one of those things where I slightly worry. Where when we're filming, it's like I hope we don't get anybody in trouble. I hope this is a standard procedure. I mean, it certainly looks like something they've done a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And as someone who's been on boats a bunch in my life, I mean, it's the kind of thing where your mom or one of your parents might be like, "Don't do that," but it's just standard. If you just do it.
Yep. It's just a
It's
normal
just a
thing.
standard practice.
I know that pilots typically transfer aboard ships when they're underway. So the harbor pilot who knows the harbor like the back of their hand, they go out on a little pilot boat and they'll come alongside another ship and they'll just hop aboard while it's underway and going up. So is there a difference between handling crew versus pilots? I definitely know that underway transfers are a normal thing for pilots, at least, that I've seen videos of. So who knows? I mean, they did it. They're right there in the publicly available mouth of Port Canaveral. So if they're trying to hide it from someone, they didn't do a very good job of hiding that.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears a little bit here and start talking about some Starship stuff, right? So we've got a question from Foxbolt, and Foxbolt asks, if I did that correctly, I may have not done that correctly, when can we expect SN5 to roll out to the pad? Anybody got a line on that one?
So that's going to be sometime early next week. They have a bunch of road closures scheduled.
Okay.
They're already planning ahead for tank testing and static fires. I think those will be, according to the road closures, they'll be sometime very late next week or on the weekend. So SN5 should be rolling out sometime within the next few days.
Okay. So we just know that there's a couple road closures, but it's not like SpaceX tells us, okay, in this road closure, we're going to be rolling out the booster. We just sort of have to guess, right?
There are, on the new road closures, there actually are they specifically said tank proofing, a second thing, and then a static fire.
Okay.
I think based on the road closures, it's supposed to be Monday.
It's supposed to be Monday. Well, I guarantee you that if Boca Chica Gal is out there and they are rolling something, we will definitely try to spool up some live video on Monday if that booster is actually rolling out then. So if there's something going on and Mary is available, we'll get a live stream going, right? I just sort of speak for everybody there. It's like, what do you mean, Das? You're the one that gets the live stream going. You tell me. Here's a real quick one from Jordan J.K. Coman. And they asked, this was a super chat. Thanks for the super chat there. Would it be possible to stick Dragon on Falcon Heavy and go to Mars? Thanks for your great work, guys. So, Dragon going all the way to Mars. What do y'all think about that?
The question is do you want to be in a closet-sized capsule for 6 months or 8 months or whatever? I mean, even assuming if Falcon Heavy has, say, a whole bunch of extra Delta V, and you can go there super fast on an inefficient trajectory, but go really, really, really fast and then turn around and slow down and, do all that. Do you really want to be in a car for 3 months or four months, basically?
Think
about it, just like sitting in the driver's seat for 3 months or something. But I don't know. I think it's a better question for you, probably Delta V wise, or maybe using something like the Flight Club Yeet calculator. I don't know if it could do it technically or what.
I haven't run the numbers on the mass of a Crew Dragon, plus all the extra life support you'd have. I haven't personally run those numbers. I wouldn't be able to do them really quickly live here. I think it's more about the space. I just don't think that you're going to put any number of crew. We talk about the Dragon capsule. Oh, it's so spacious. I mean, compared to a Soyuz capsule, yeah, it's a veritable coliseum inside of the Dragon capsule. There's so much room for activities, right? But it's still not a lot of space for 3, 4, 5, 6 months of journey. Plus, where are you going to keep all the food? Where are you going to have the life support, recyclers? I know that Red Dragon was a thing that they had talked about, but I don't see any designs in which the Dragon capsule that we see would be able to support astronauts all the way out to Mars and then back again. I haven't seen that design. Ian, anything different on that, or?
don't think they were ever intending to send people to Mars or even beyond, or actually, never mind, cancel that. But they weren't intending to send people beyond Earth or to Mars in Dragon. They were going to do Red Dragon, like you said, which would be an uncrewed test flight, or not uncrewed, just an uncrewed flight with experiments inside that would land on Mars. But they eventually shelved that idea because it was just so different from Starship and it would get in the way.
Right.
But yeah, it was supposed to be landing on Mars with the Super Draco engines and the landing legs. And when they got rid of the landing legs and the Super Draco's ability to do a landing burn, it really just canceled the mission.
Gotcha. And they started refocusing their efforts on Starship, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jack.
I remember all the speculation online about it too. Like, oh, is it going to have sample return capability? How would they do that? Would they put a return rocket inside it and have it blast through the nose cone? No, they would. That's too different than they'd not. They would have to be similar enough to the. How would they drill into the ground? Maybe it would be a sample that Mars 2020 would come pick up from it, and then it just got canceled, and all that speculation was rendered useless. But it was fun while it lasted.
Oh, geez.
And I know they were even talking about sending one to like Europa or to Enceladus, using Falcon Heavy, and they would have had like to install more fuel on there, to make the journey possible. But it never really came to fruition.
Gotcha. So let's keep on going with some more questions here. And again, y'all, this is just Max Q&A. We're just talking about all sorts of different spaceflight topics today. Every now and then I have something relevant to roll in the background. This is, again, just the Boca Chica video that I've got running right now on a loop. But here is one from Andrew. And Andrew says, how far will the new launch pad be from the old one? Or will they be able to test two SN simultaneously? So we know SN4 had a big bada boom, right? We saw SN4 completely destroy the launch stand there and itself. We knew that there was another sort of test stand over off in the background. Have we heard anything about them testing two at once or no?
So no, there's been no talks of that. They were building the second launch stand. I don't know what it was for before SN4 exploded. It might have been there as a backup, or they're going to replace it eventually anyway. So it was mostly completed, and they actually flipped it and put it into position a few days ago.
Gotcha.
So right now they don't have the capability to test two Starships at once. It seems like work might be starting on a super heavy launch pad, or maybe they're just doing some minor work over there because they've assembled a very large crane. That it could be for assembling a super heavy launch pad.
Yeah, and I don't know.
It seems like they were working towards having two functioning mounts, given the speed with which that they've been able to recover from the anomaly. They had the second mount basically ready to go and install where the old toasted one was. And then we've seen pictures of that new quick disconnect box with the umbilicals in there.
I'm trying to dive for the right images here as we talk about it.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of the, like a cartoon where all the plates are falling down, and I'm just like I keep throwing different plates at you to catch. Yeah, sorry about that.
There should be a launch mount picture in there.
Yeah, I see. Which one is it?
But yeah,
though?
so it certainly seems like they were working towards dual mounts for whatever reason, or maybe it was tearing out the old one and putting in a new one all along. But definitely, we'll know if they start to build a third or a new second one, however you want to look at it. We'll know pretty soon. I'm glad that they had that concurrency going though, because it's been a rapid recovery.
Yeah, I don't see the picture of the GSC connections, like the quick disconnects on here right now.
Let me see if I can find it real quick.
But this is the other launch mount they were doing. This is not the first one. This is the second one, isn't it? I think.
Yep.
Yeah, new launch mount. And we know previously that new launch mount didn't have all the ground surface equipment running to it yet, but it's a step that you have to make in order to get the thing running. You start building the structure, then you run the lines, and you plumb everything, and you run everything up. So will they have the capability to test two at once? Probably never at the same time, but they may have a little bit more redundancy in, oops, that pad is completely down, but we can keep working on this pad, and now this pad's back up and running, and we move this one out, then we move this one out, and I do expect that we could see a little bit of concurrency there, sort of parallel processing, because we know SpaceX is all about going fast as they're trying to get the Starship going, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just threw some links in Control Center.
Okay, cool.
I wonder eventually if they'll have like a 39A, 39B kind of thing going on at Boca Chica with 2 separate launch sites. I think eventually they might want that when they start getting to Mars missions, unless they can really rapidly turn around.
Right.
Starship and
I mean, even with the amount for lunar missions that they're going to need, the fact that they're going to have to launch and then refuel and then refuel and then I mean, that's many launches. So they're definitely going to need multiple pads down there. That would make sense to me for sure. So there's that quick disconnect box.
Yeah. I should have got the other picture. It looks like the other picture is a little bit more detailed, but those are the quick disconnects. And just really quickly, we know that the quick disconnects were what Elon said had an anomaly when SN4 went kaput. He said it was supposed to be a simple test of the system or the ground equipment or something like that, right? And he did a tweet saying that it seemed like, or that it was something to do with the quick test they were doing that went wrong and destroyed SN4, right?
Yeah. And it seemed like they had a leak. I don't know if there was an issue with either the disconnects themselves, maybe a pipe broke on the umbilical, but it looked like there was a major leak that then led to SN4, the destruction.
I mean, we've got the SN4 RUD video I can bring up just really quickly, but while we're talking about that, we saw that this was an anomaly. We did not expect all this leaking to occur there, and then all of a sudden the whole thing just went up. Jack and I were talking about this in real time when it happened, right, Jack?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Sure enough.
You know, what day was this? This was May 29th, and here we sit on June 6th. So we're what, 7-8 days later? And they've already got that all cleaned up. They're just pushing forward with operations, aren't they?
Yep. I'll be honest, I was shocked at how quickly they're going. I was thinking, like, we're not going to see a Starship on the pad till late July at the earliest. And it's rolling to the pad on Monday.
Rolling to the pad on Monday, apparently.
And also we had some an update from the control center here. The anomaly tweet about what happened with SN4, that's from Joey Roulette of Routers.
Ah, thank you. All right.
So it was an interview from Elon.
I remember seeing a tweet or something like that, and I couldn't remember exactly where that came from. So thank you for the clarification there. Gotcha.
Yeah, I think at the time we were even speculating if it was a quick disconnect thing, and sure enough, that seems to be what it was. And we were even speculating if it was a detonation, I believe, given how fast it was. I mean, if you go back and watch the live stream, we were both wildly wrong, but also wildly correct.
Yeah.
So it was kind of satisfying. But it sure looks like a cloud of methane and liquid oxygen mixed in the perfect, whatever stoichiometric ratio, and then detonated next to the vehicle and all around the vehicle, which then caused it to just pop. And then all the remaining methane and liquid oxygen to conflagrate.
And I don't even feel bad. Like, while we were watching it, from our perspective, it looked like the flame originated from the flare stack and went towards the rocket. Right? It just, you watch it, you're not expecting it. This isn't slow motion, but we had said, oh, it looks like that. But then when we went back and we did the frame by frame replay, it was really clear that the flare stack had nothing to do with the detonation. If it's a fuel air detonation or whatever, the detonation originated from the base of the rocket, like right underneath. So we watch these things in real time and we're like, whoa, did that just go to the flame? But then later we corrected ourselves and said, no, it didn't do that. It actually started. You can see the point of ignition down below the bottom of SN4.
Yeah, I think our two initial reactions were either it leaked or it was a GSC issue. And I think that we kind of, at least I've kind of focused on a leak thing just because that's what we've seen in the past. And so I was expecting maybe if that's a methane cloud, the flare stack would ignite it. But no, it seemed at least to be a perfectly mixed cloud of both methane and liquid oxygen. It was nowhere near the flare, but nonetheless was able to find a source of ignition
something
at
down
the vehicle.
Something down at the bottom of SN4 was still hot enough or whatever, a spark or something to ignite that thing.
Yeah.
Let me grab another question here. I mean, we've been sort of answering these questions. There was a question that said, have they determined the cause of SN4 catastrophic failure? And so that's what we were just talking about. That the interviewer or whatever, Jack, you could probably say this better than me, but somebody interviewed Elon or Ian.
Yeah, Joey. It
ahead.
Was Joey Roulette. It was a reporter for Reuters, but on Twitter he said, and I'll try and find a link to that tweet.
Yeah.
On Twitter he said that he just asked Elon as he was leaving the press site, I think, at KSC after DM2, and so really the only source for that we have is Joey Roulette's tweet.
Right.
And But I do find, I think Scott Manley has speculated the same thing on his What Happened video. And I
Right.
find it amusing that we speculated the very same thing in real time as
Yep.
we were watching. So
Yeah. I mean, we
it
do
definitely
know
seems like a very large scale fuel air explosion.
it really does. And like we were saying, Jack, we do know we can observe what we saw with our own eyes. We saw the leak that we hadn't seen before. We saw venting that we hadn't seen before right there from the GSE rail. GSE is the ground service equipment, right? And so we noticed there's a big leak coming from that rail right there. It wasn't something we had seen before, so we thought it was a leak, like it wasn't intentional. And then we were guessing, wow, is that oxygen? Is that methane? Like, I hope it's not methane. And then it went, so it clearly had some methane in it. But we can sort of look at that and guesstimate, I guess, the same that Scott Manley would do, what went wrong there. But definely something to
I just
do
threw
with
the
that.
link in chat to Joey's tweet, and also I threw it in Control Center as well if you feel like showing it.
Gotcha. Thank you for that, and thanks for getting that attributed correctly. That was Elon Musk leaving the KSC press site just now, said of yesterday's Starship test. Unfortunately, what we thought was going to be a minor test of a quick disconnect ended up being a big problem. And then that's, of course, our video. That's our live stream video in there. So, gotcha.
So if you think about it, they have to test the quick disconnect to make sure it can quickly disconnect.
Right.
So
For the
so the
hops.
vehicle can hop.
Yep.
Exactly. So they've done several static fires now, and we're always thinking each time they're doing another one, we're like, oh, I wonder what they're testing this time on this static fire. One time we know they did a test from the header tanks. One time we know they fed the engine from the normal tanks.
Yep.
So apparently, ahead of SN4's failure, they did a static fire and tested the quick disconnect in some way. And that quick disconnect catastrophically failed and spewed liquid oxygen and methane, which mixed in a perfect ratio to find an ignition source. It's like an episode of Mythbusters. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
right?
sure Mythbusters has done that exact experiment where they mixed, I think, even
They
methane
have.
and oxygen in a closed space
Yep.
with a sparker just in the thing. And they just watch the meter tick up until both gases hit the exact correct ratio
Yep.
for the sparker to actually work. It's crazy. It's like a giant Mythbusters experiment.
So I grew up down in South Texas, right, where they're building this stuff, and we've got a bunch of grain silos. So we've got corn and grain and all sorts of stuff in these big silos.
Man, you never thought a corn silo would be
geez.
explosive, but it is.
You get this sort of fuel air mixture detonation. A grain silo can go up just because the grain dust reaches the right consistency in the atmosphere of the silo, and if they get an ignition source, that grain silo, it doesn't even have to be methane or diesel or fuel or anything like that. Literally, just grain dust will blow a silo to pieces when it's in exactly the right mixture. So definitely,
I never knew that. Wow.
Yeah, it's something you gotta look out for.
Yeah, for a variety of reasons, not just explosive ones. Grain silos are extremely, extremely dangerous.
Yep, they really are. I got this real quick. I just brought this up. In our video of the explosion, you actually see the water tank start to leak. And then Boca Chica Gal went over there and got this great shot of the damage to the water tank. Some sort of metal that actually looks like a roller or a bearing or something, doesn't it? Impacted the side of that water tank. And so this was the what caused the water to come gushing out of the side of the tank there. I thought that was a really cool picture.
Oh, I got a good question here in chat from
Yeah, go for
Justin DeLong. He's a member. It says, how soon before the new crane is installed in the high bay, or is it meant for something else? So if he's talking about what I think it is, then the gantry crane that was delivered, the large yellow gantry crane that was delivered to Boca Chica,
Right.
that went up in the ground support equipment hangar. So they built a large hangar there recently, not very tall, but they're going to be fabricating ground support equipment in there. So it's, it was installed in that hangar a few days ago.
Was that the bridge crane? Is that the
Yep.
crane we're looking
Yep,
about?
that's it right
Yep.
there.
Okay, gotcha. So this was
You can
a
see it was
new-
moved in there. Then they used a crane. I think they opened up a hole in the roof to pick it up and install it.
Oh, wow. So this is a crane that they install in the building, and it's usually like on rails or something, or it is a rail that has a little slider that goes underneath it, and you can
Yep.
move things around the inside of the building. You see these at the NASA VAB, at the SpaceX HIF, the Launch Alliance uses them in their Delta IV buildings, like anywhere you have a big warehouse where you're assembling things. Heck, locomotive building warehouses have these big cranes that can move big locomotive parts around. But this is sort of a fixed position crane that you can use to move things around the facility, I guess, inside a building, right?
Yep.
Gotcha. Let's just keep on going with questions. This is just all Q&A. Let's see if we can maybe speed run a couple of them here. This is from Crash664. Anyone know what the new white vertical tank is for? Have we seen a picture of a new white vertical tank, either of y'all?
Yeah, we have. And I think yesterday's video Mary caught the entire tank being lifted from the horizontal position and vertically into the tank farm.
Okay.
I don't know what the difference between the vertical and horizontal ones are, but we know the tank farm is liquid oxygen and liquid methane. And I think those black tanks are the water. So
Yeah.
it was either liquid oxygen or liquid methane.
So this looks like one of the tank. This looks like the tank in question.
That's
right?
it. Yep,
Yeah.
that's it.
How crazy is it that we can just bring up the video real quick and let's look at this tank that's being installed? Like, Mary out there is crazy with the amount of documenting she does of these things.
She's
Absolutely.
a legend.
Yeah,
She's an absolute legend.
I say crazy. She's my kind of crazy. Like, wow.
I mean, we're all the exact same way with our dedication to covering these things. I mean, you might see us tweet or talk about, being up weird hours or staying up super late or, launch hangovers, but we all do it in service of bringing you this stuff because it's really, really, really fun to.
Yep.
So again, I probably sound like a broken record, but thanks everybody for your support and for your eyeballs.
Yep.
Because it's super fun to be able to share this stuff with the world. I mean, taking the photos is one thing, but that's really only part of it. Sharing it with everybody is a huge part of the fun as well. So thanks.
Yep. So I was trying to see if maybe we could see an indicator on the side of it that said what it would be, because sometimes the labels will be painted, but maybe this one, I don't see any sort of text indication on it.
I think they put those up after they plumb it in and have it all ready to go.
Yeah.
So they'll put up like liquid nitrogen, liquid oxygen, liquid methane, whatever's in there.
Yeah.
They'll put that up once they have it all plumbed up and ready to go.
Gotcha. So we can't see that yet. So that's the new white tank that we're talking about. Let's keep on going with questions here. Probably not water, probably some sort of gas. I guess we could.
It looks like it has a condenser on the bottom, so probably not water.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think the black tanks would be water, I think is how they do that. I'm not sure why, but the white tanks are the propellant.
Yeah, it may just be the pressure and the materials that are made out of, like thermal cycling and stuff like that. The water is usually just going to be ambient temperature, whereas the gases will actually thermal cycle a lot, and the tank will get hotter, the tank will get colder, based on what you're doing with the gases inside. I bet you that has
we've talked about the black tanks before too. The residents in Boca Chica have to get their water trucked in,
Right.
and their water tanks are a very similar construction. They're just kind of sitting out in their yards, either front or back.
Yeah.
The ones at the launch pad at SpaceX are just much larger, obviously.
A water tank doesn't need to be nearly as strong. It can be made out of different materials and stuff like that. A water tank's probably cheaper than a compressed gas tank. That's probably the difference.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah, because you don't need insulation, you don't need high pressure. It's just water in there. You obviously want to make it strong, but it doesn't need to withstand however 8 bar or whatever is inside the propellant tanks.
Yep. All right. So I'm gonna. Whoa. What just happened there? I just lost all the questions that I was gonna bring up.
Yeah, it just happened here too.
Oops! I just lost literally all the questions. Stand by.
Das, this is Control Center. We are moving on to the next segment. What's the reason?
There's another segment. I thought it was just all Max Q&A. what are we talking about next?
We are changing the topic.
We're changing the topic off of Starship?
Yes.
Okay, what are we talking about now? All my questions disappeared all of a sudden.
We're moving into a more general Q&A where any topic can be asked.
Okay,
But we're moving on from Starship.
All right, good deal. So moving on from Starship, you can ask any topic, including Starship. But I think we had a bunch of Starship questions in there, and my queue just disappeared. So let's talk about some other stuff.
I feel kind of like we were jumping on the bed and Dad just came home and was real mad.
I mean, people want to talk about Starship. That is what it is, you know.
All right.
So here's a question, guys. Whatever happened to Blue Origin?
That's a mean question. They're working really hard.
Yeah.
We'll hopefully see whatever they're working on sometime soon, maybe in the next 20 years. Oh.
Oh.
I don't have any graphics to bring up for random questions, so we'll just go over to this screen now. Blue Origin is definitely doing work down at the Cape. Blue Origin doesn't issue a lot of press releases. They don't try to get a lot of likes or anything like that, but they are doing all sorts of stuff down at the Cape. They have the launch site that's being built, and they actually have their production facility that is massively built out. You just don't see it very often, right?
Yep.
Oh,
I don't have any graphics queued up on that. I'll see if I can find something, but what are y'all's feelings on Blue Origin?
I'm excited. I mean, I joke, right? But I just was trying to sort of mirror the tone I interpreted from the question. In truth, if you go to Kennedy Space Center and you drive anywhere near the visitor center,
yeah.
you will drive for a long period of time past Blue Origin facilities, and it's astounding the amount of infrastructure they're building, and they should not be discounted because they would not be building that infrastructure for nothing. The amount of investment in just real estate alone, and then all of the huge buildings that they are building. I mean, they're massive warehouse style buildings. They're huge. I can't emphasize this enough.
Yeah.
I wish I had a better word for it, but they're massive. So whatever they're building, whenever they flip that switch and they come online, it's going to be huge.
Right.
Wow, I just said huge again. It's going to be significant, whatever they're building. So that's how I feel about Blue Origin.
Yeah.
I'm impatient. I'm as impatient as I'm sure a lot of people are. I want to see what they're working on behind those closed doors. But surely their plan is going to be to just sort of flip a switch, and then they'll be there and a massive force in the industry. And I wish them luck, because competition is good, and more access to space is more better.
Yep.
And what do you think, Ian?
They released this video
Absolutely.
of the inside of their production facility and all these time-lapse stuff. But Blue Origin, they don't make a big deal of it, but they are doing a lot of stuff down there at the Cape. That's for sure.
Yep, they have a giant.
Jeff Bezos is spending billions of dollars a year of his money on Blue Origin, and that is not going to nothing. We just haven't really seen what it's going to yet.
Yep. So let's keep on going through. The questions are sort of all over the map here. I can't really keep up with them. What's the status of the BE4 production? Have we heard anything about the BE4 production?
So they're testing them, that's for sure. They're producing some.
Right.
So they're not only going to need them for their New Glenn rocket, they're also going to need them for a United Launch Alliance's Vulcan rocket.
Right.
And ULA has said, I believe they're going to be taking, receiving their first BE4 engines later this year or early next year. I can't remember exactly, but they'll be receiving them soon for testing on for testing on Vulcan.
Right, testing on Vulcan. Gotcha. So they're still in work. We know that they've done tests. We don't get a lot of test videos or anything like that, but they're supposed to be delivered to United Launch Alliance sooner rather than later. So they're definitely making progress on them, right?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, and I believe in Vulcan, absolutely. Like, I think Vulcan is going to be huge. Oh, God, I got to stop saying huge. Now it's in my brain. Vulcan is going to be a very, very capable rocket. So the engine has to be on track, at least just for Vulcan. So
Right. Gotcha.
And I really hope to see Vulcan become successful. That's going to be an amazing rocket, and I want to see it launch many times.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's pretty much a foregone conclusion. It's ULA. They are an industry giant. I mean, they're the sort of, I don't know if I should call them the OG, but they're the big dog before SpaceX came along.
Yep.
And I don't see Vulcan failing. I mean, maybe it grabs a smaller chunk of the market than they would like, but it'll absolutely succeed. And I'm so excited for that rocket, because it's just going to look, I mean, if you like, I just looked at chat and somebody said, "That's huge news, Jack." Why did I look at chat? If you like large rockets, especially ULA's rockets, I mean, Delta and Atlas, imagine a combination of Delta and Atlas together with a super cool engine. I mean, who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
I want that.
Yeah. All right. So many questions here. We're down to about the last 15 minutes, I think. So let's see if we can speed run a couple of them. I don't understand the order that these appear in. Like, sometimes they seem to shuffle, so I have them, the next one's up, and then they disappear. Here is one. What do you think the life expectancy of the ISS is? What is the life expectancy of the ISS?
I think that's kind of like the ship of, what is it, the ship of Plesius?
Yeah,
Is
or
that
Grandfather's Hatchet.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what do you consider the ISS? If you continually attach fresh modules to the ISS and deorbit the old ones, and at some point it's all quote unquote fresh modules, it's still the ISS.
Sure.
Then indefinite.
Like the design.
Who knows if they'll do that?
What did we think the ISS was designed to be? Was it supposed to shut down in 2020, 2030?
It was supposed to shut down in 2015 under Constellation. They would have deorbited then, because they're going to move on to the moon. But since Constellation's been canceled, they've officially extended it to 2028. But they have the option on the table, should they need it, to extend it to 2030. But I think they would need to upgrade the solar arrays.
Right.
I could be misremembering, but the solar arrays are definitely showing their age.
Right. So it all comes on to how much funding you can have to keep it running. I think the ISS comes down a lot more to, well, there are things that we need to replace. We need to keep this thing going. We have to boost it on occasion. It needs visiting vehicles. We need astronauts. It needs to be doing something useful, right? So how much budget do we have to keep that thing flying? We could continue replacing parts of it and just keep it flying as long as we have the budget to do so, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we've also been seeing recently on the Japanese HTV vehicles that they've been launching, they've been carrying up brand new lithium-ion batteries to replace the aging nickel-hydrogen ones.
Yep.
So not only are they replaced in brand new up-to-date batteries, they're also able to store more charge.
Gotcha.
So they're upgrading the ISS piece by piece, little by little.
Right. They're not just letting it die slowly. I mean, it's still up there. It's an active science facility orbiting the Earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to grab a couple more questions here. Fortnite Sinclair asks, NASA Spaceflight, will you be live for Just Read the Instructions return? I do believe that our plan is, if the area is open, that we will plan to try and get a live stream going. But again, it's weather, it's the availability of the crew to be there. The last I've heard, we did want to try and bring y'all the return of that Starlink booster into Port Canaveral. But it's all going to come down to what the weather looks like and if we have people available. Is there any public information on when that's coming in? Do either of y'all know?
I don't.
Okay, I haven't checked with the fleet trackers yet, so I'd have to go with
Me either. Control Center. It's according to SpaceX fleet updates on Twitter, early Sunday morning, 7 to 8 a.m. local time.
Gotcha. You can just say that it's Michael.
It's the voice in our head.
It's the voice in our heads.
I like when he says it's Control Center. It sounds way more official. I feel like I'm in sort of a Truman Show type situation where it's like, don't look over there, look over here.
We need the beep, and we need Michael to announce himself correctly, like beep. Stream control here, and then proceed with your message.
Control Center DOS beep.
Yeah, Control Center DOS. There you go. All right,
let's do it.
So here's one from Folded Eagle. Folded Eagle says, NASA Spaceflight, what can the Orion capsule do that the Crew Dragon can't? So what can Orion do that Crew Dragon can't?
So Orion is capable of being a deep space capsule.
Right.
So it's able to go on its own, fly on its own around the moon, fly on its own around low Earth orbit for, I believe, around a month unassisted. Crew Dragon can only do about a week or two.
Okay.
And with Orion, it's capable of staying docked and commanding a space station for several months at the minimum. So that's what Orion's going to be used for. Crew Dragon is good for low Earth orbit and for minors or short missions outside of Earth orbit,
right,
with crew on board. Orion's meant to be more of a deep space exploration capsule. It has larger life support systems, more fuel on board. It can get itself into lunar orbit. Crew Dragon can't do any of that.
Isn't Orion much larger as well? Like if you're on Orion
gigantic,
it'd be like being in a large van or maybe the semi truck trailer versus being in a car.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite as large as a semi truck trailer, but the point being, much more space in Orion than in Crew Dragon.
I think I've heard it described as Orion is sort of a command module, and Dragon is a crew module. And the difference being, one is longer duration. It's designed to be it can be part of a space station or whatever. It's got more life support. It's got more space, all this sort of stuff, versus a crew mission, which is really you're just getting the crew from point A to point B. They're not going to live there long duration. Then they need to be on the gateway, or they need to be on the space station, or they need to dock up with, I don't know, a Starship and get aboard the Starship or whatever. But it's a command module versus a crew transport module, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Gotcha. Good question, though. Good question. And I'm going to keep on busting through some here. How many boosters does SpaceX have that are flight-worthy? I don't know.
I think it's around 5.
Yeah. 5 right now?
There's 1049, 51, 52 and 53 are Falcon Heavy boosters.
Okay.
There's 59 and newly 58. So I didn't even count that. I don't even know why I mentioned that. I didn't even count in my head. I think it's 5 if you don't count the Falcon Heavy boosters.
The Falcon Heavy boosters. Because am I correct that a Falcon Heavy side booster can't flex and become a single core booster? It goes one way but not the other.
Don't do it. Don't even start that conversation. I remember there's been so many debates as to whether or not a booster can be a side core, or a side core can be boosters, or if they would ever convert them. And then Gwen said one thing, and then the internet says another thing. I don't even know what to think anymore. So don't even open that bag of worms.
So we could just say they can if they
Ian
need
knows,
to.
In which case, I'll shut up.
Gotcha. Okay. From what I recall, and I may be wrong here, but I thought that they had to make some changes to the center core of a Falcon Heavy for extra structural stuff. And so the center core of a Falcon Heavy wasn't exactly just a stock Falcon 9 because of these other attach points or bracing. That's what I remembered, but I may be wrong.
Yeah, the center core of a Falcon Heavy is unique and different. I think in theory you can use regular Falcon 9s with some conversion as side cores, but you cannot use a regular Falcon 9 as a center core.
Right.
That I know.
So the
center
answer
core of a
is
Falcon Heavy is a unique beast.
the answer is a couple. How's that? Somewhere between a few and a couple. Let's grab another question here. Trevor Senzik asks, why does the booster slide on the drone ship? So we've seen the booster come down and land before. I'll see if I can grab that video, but sometimes we see it slide. Who wants to take that one?
I think that's just residual horizontal velocity from it coming down. The vehicle is able to null out almost all of its horizontal velocity, so it only has to worry about vertical velocity as it's landing.
Right.
But presumably there's some amount of horizontal velocity that it knows it's able to tolerate, and therefore either doesn't zero out or isn't able to zero out because it's within tolerance.
Yeah. And remember,
it could also be maybe one foot comes down before another, and it's doing sort of a pivot on 1 or 2 feet. Or maybe it's also the boat or the barge shifting under waves, or there could be several reasons. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, remember,
So there's also been, like you were saying,
ahead,
like
Ian. Yeah,
with
go ahead.
wave effects, there was also with like you can see the Tycom 8 landing. There were very rough seas there, and you can see it sliding around on the deck in video SpaceX released, and it almost went off the edge if it weren't for the railing.
Oh,
I don't know if I could find that fast enough to bring
Wait.
up.
It's
The
in
railing saved Tycom 8.
Yeah, it was like I don't know, at there was like a little bumper along the side of the drone ship that supports the railing, and that you can see in the video it just stops it, and the booster like tips a little bit when it hits it. It's really unnerving.
I don't know if I'll be able to find that very quickly, but I guess the important thing is when the rocket lands on the drone ship, it's not connected to the deck of the drone ship. It's just sitting there, right? And then they have the octograbber, the robotic tool, the robotic robot that drives out and actually connects itself to the booster to give it some extra mass and maybe a little bit more friction area with the deck of the booster. But when it's landing, it's got 4 contact points. The tip of each of the landing legs is touching the deck of the drone ship, but that's all. So there's not a lot of friction in there, and you still have the booster and you still have the drone ship out in the seas that are moving around. So a little bit of sliding would be normal until you get the octograbber underneath there. Remember, when they first started landing Falcons on drone ships, they would literally weld the legs of the Falcon to the drone ship to keep it from sliding around. But that takes human beings getting out there with welding equipment to secure that to the deck of the drone ship, and then they got upgraded to the octograbber, which they can remote control, go attached to it to just give it a little bit more contact patch.
DOS,
right?
I put in the control center the video of Tycom. It's timestamped.
Ah, gotcha. I'll roll that. Let's see here. Thank you for getting that. So there is that. And we'll grab another question here. Again, we're coming up on the end of NASA Spaceflight Live for today. But wow!
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a little bit of a time lapse, but that's crazy. But it looks like it's designed that way. It looks like it has that hockey rink edge
Looks
around
like
it.
yeah. But you can see even the booster, it just like it ricochets back a little, like shakes when it hits the edge.
Jeez. It definitely does tip over there when it hits the edge. So again, the drone ship, the booster was not connected to the deck, and the drone ship seems to be designed to allow that to keep that from going off within some sort of constraints, right? Clearly the seas can get so rough that it could fall off the edge, but it's something that they've thought about. That's crazy right there.
And previously what they did with old boosters, they would weld little like shoes on over the landing legs to hold them in place.
Right.
But now they have the octograbber robot that it's like a little Roomba, rolls out underneath and just grabs onto the booster.
Yep. God. All right, let's see here. We'll get a couple more questions as we have a couple more minutes left. Could Crew Dragon and Falcon Heavy replace Orion and SLS for Artemis? And I think we talked about that one already, right? Crew Dragon is a crew vehicle. It's not a command vehicle. So could they make Artemis happen with only Crew Dragon? What do y'all think on that?
Nope.
Nope. That's a pretty straightforward nope.
Nope.
Why not?
Because like we were saying before, and also because SLS has a much larger lift capability than Falcon Heavy, even in Falcon Heavy's expendable mode. SLS can lift 95 tons to low Earth orbit.
Right.
Falcon Heavy can do 63.8 in expendable capability.
Okay.
And even though SLS is really expensive and That's a whole nother can of worms I'm not even gonna even look at. But
Well, look at the time.
yeah. Oh, look at the time. But yeah, it's just they're just so
Watch out.
different. You can't use them for Artemis or
Right.
Falcon Heavy.
Okay. And plus, it's also, I mean, it's good. I will say this, it'll be controversial, but it's good to pursue simultaneously multiple different solutions, right?
Absolutely.
We don't want to put all of our
I
eggs
mean,
in
that's
one
not
basket.
controversial. That's just good design.
Well, a
but
lot of people would
hopefully one of the solutions is not hideously expensive, but yeah, two
Yep.
solutions good.
Yeah, two cost-effective solutions would be a really good way to do it, but that's why we fly
Yes.
so many different ways to the ISS. We have the Japanese cargo vehicles, we have Antares, we have Dragon, we have United Launch Alliance, like all these. Well, I guess United Launch Alliance flew cargo up there, taking the Cygnus capsule up, which is now Antares.
Yeah.
But we have so many different ways to get supplies to the ISS because if one thing goes wrong with one of those rockets, we need to keep pushing forward, and so to push multiple things up at once is sort of a good idea. Budgetary discussions aside, right? I'm going to just grab one or two more questions here. What do we think is next for Boeing's Starliner? Have we heard of anything going on with Starliner? Of course, previously that checkout flight that they did not go as planned. They did not make it to the space station, although the capsule did successfully and safely return over to New Mexico. What's going on with Starliner?
So with Starliner, we're on track for the second orbital flight test, OFT2, since there were two major issues with the last one. There was a timing one, and then I believe it was also, I forget the second one. I think it was the large amount of propellant consumption. I could be wrong on that one though.
Right.
Jack, do you know?
Issues. They got to redo it, basically.
So
right?
they're going to be redoing it on Boeing's own dime. So NASA won't need to pay for it, which is, I'm not going to say my opinion on that, but they're going to be redoing the OFT2 on their own dime to the International Space Station later this year. And should that go well, the crewed flight test would be coming up early next year, mid next year. It's really unclear at this point. It's all dependent on OFT2.
On OFT2, but they are reflying that test. Like you said, Boeing's footing the bill for reflying that test, and they're going to see if they can get a successful end-to-end test to and from the ISS, right?
Yep.
All right, let's see here. Here's one. Is there any advantage of using solid fuel propulsion? Who wants to grab solid fuel propulsion really quickly? We're
It's
over
good
time.
if you are doing. It's good if you're doing something like a nuclear missile or something that needs to sit inert in a silo for a long period of time.
Right.
And it's good for cheapness. I think they tend to be very cheap. But for other things like human rating or for being able to start, stop, or I think some other reasons I can't think of off the top of my head, they're less than ideal. So like anything, it's all about trade-offs. So if your design requires some extreme thrust and that's cheap, or that needs to be inert and stable for a long period of time, or I don't know if Das or Ian, you have other...
Yeah, no, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That's a big part of the SRB equation is there's no tanking or detanking of the rocket. There's no muxing around with cryogenic propellants or anything like that. It's literally just stop. Yeah, the SRB is there. Just let it know when it's ready to go. It's ready to go. But they tend to be a little bit less efficient. They're high thrust. You know, there's all sorts of give and takes on it. I personally really like United Launch Alliance's design where they can custom build either the Atlas or the Vulcans by strapping on some SRBs. So you got your center core that has the liquid fuel engines on it as sort of the base, and then you can add on the strap-on SRBs if you need a little bit more thrust, a little bit more delta V based on different payload sizes, the 4 and the 5 meter fairings. It's more of a customizable rocket than a one-size-fits-all sort of thing. So I like it for that. I wish it had wings and could glide back down and land on the launch pad or something, but it doesn't. That being said, I think we've come up on the end. Let me check the control center and make sure I haven't missed anything here. We never get through all the questions. It's really easy for y'all to ask a lot of great questions, and we, being space nerds, can talk about them for long periods of time, but we never get through it all. So we always run out of time for the questions because we like talking about space stuff.
Even in an episode that's all Q&A, thank you, chat, we still have run out of time for questions.
Yeah, we always run out of time.
That just goes to show you, you guys are giving us a lot of really good questions, so thanks for that.
So the last thing...
Oh, you want to do a launch preview?
Yeah, the last thing that we have to talk through. So that's the end of our max Q&A thing here. Really quickly, Ian, tell us what's coming up this week with launches that we have to look forward to.
Jack will be taking the launch preview, actually.
Oh, really? Well, Jack, you do that. Okay, Jack. I just got to click on a different thing.
So this week we have two launches coming up. We have two launches coming up. We have Rocket Lab doing their Don't Stop Me Now launch of Electron. And we also have the next Starlink mission, Starlink number ? This will be the first Starlink mission to have a ride share. It's going to be a ride share along with Planet Labs, some of their imaging satellites.
Gotcha. All right. I had to remove your camera for a second there so we could see the back of the text there. But one of those, what are the dates on those, Jack?
The Rocket Lab is June 11th, and the SpaceX, the next Starlink mission, is June 12th.
June 12th. All right.
No earlier than, I believe.
Good deal. Okay. So there we go. Did I miss anything else? I'm going to go and check over here real quickly. I don't think I missed any super chats or anything like that, right? I haven't seen
you missed this extremely long, complicated list of various links that you don't have right now that I need you to click on in the specific order.
Wait, what?
I'm being stupid.
Okay, good. I was like, I mean, I clicked on a lot of the links, but with the open-ended Q&A, it was mostly me trying to find the right visual aid based on what we were talking.
No, don't take me seriously. I'm giving you a hard time.
All right, so new for this week, we do have this people who join the channel membership-wise, or people that do I guess different various levels of memberships. One of the reasons we can do this is because of y'all's support. So we have this new scene that in real time updates with the people who are launch directors and flight engineers. So really quickly, flight engineer level, Wesley Evans, thank you so much for supporting our stream here. It's because of y'all's support that we can make this keep on happening every week. And then launch directors as well. We got quite a few aces: Adam, Astro, Bear. We got Dan, Dave, Enables, Gerard, Greg, Harry. Who else? Jared, Camper. We got Kevin O'Grady, Levi Shin, Mark Sullivan, Mark Foster, Mike Jabins, Olin Riffle, and Plush Vader. That seems to be in alphabetical order, if I had to guess. But we appreciate the launch director and flight engineer level support. Of course, we appreciate all the support on the channel, but thank you all so much for kicking it up a notch at those higher levels of support that help us keep on keeping on here with NASA Spaceflight Live. So, anything else? Any other parting words? Jack, Ian?
I think that's it.
Be excellent to each other.
There you go. Be excellent to each other.
Agreed.
As always, y'all, thank you so much for joining us. The next thing that we're looking at, if we get a booster return early in the morning, we will see it if we can deploy a camera out to space. I almost said Space Boca Chica, and I'm like, that's not even right because it's Jetty Park. At Port Canaveral is where the booster would be returning on the drone ship from that Starlink launch. And then if we also get the time for that roll for SN5 to roll out at Boca Chica, Sunday, booster returning to port probably. Monday, SN5 rolling out to Boca Chica. So the next 2 days, we may have some more cool live feeds coming at you that nobody else has here on NASA Spaceflight. As always, thank you so much for joining us.
Really quick, Doss, this is Michael.
Okay.
Could the chat maybe tell us how they liked this episode with a lot of questions compared to our normal episode format, where it's more structured?
So really quickly in chat, this was literally just a ton of Q&A. We didn't have like, and now we'll talk about this for 10 minutes, and then we'll answer 2 questions about that. This was literally just questions. So do y'all like more questions like this? Do you like news coverage? What do y'all like? 7 to 10. It was good. It was great. A good name. Nice. You like the structure, but you'll watch anything. Thomas likes the old way better. It was your first one and you liked it, Carr. Love the stream. Just what space nerds need. I agree. It was huge. It was totally huge.
If you liked it, smash the like button. If you didn't like it, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Don't smash the dislike button.
I like the news coverage more, but this was good. More questions, more. But it seems like both. So what we're gonna need to do is a 3-hour NASA Space live stream.
Oh my God!
Where we do an hour and a half of space news and then an hour and a half of Q&A every week on Sundays. My wife is like, "What?" Oh, jeez. Yeah, so it's sort of mixed feedback there. Some people like it one way, the other way, etc., etc. We appreciate y'all. We do appreciate y'all giving us feedback. Michael, that was a great idea to ask about sort of this structure the first time we've done it this way. But we appreciate you. You heard it. I said 3 hours. Anyways, thank y'all so much for the feedback. Anything else, y'all?
Nope.
Doesn't sound like it. All right, good deal. So one last time, thank y'all for the support. This will end episode 10 of NASA Spaceflight Live here. We appreciate y'all joining us, and thanks for the support. Later, nerds.
Have a good one.
Propulsion
more of these.
We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
Alright, the chamber pressure looks good.